Story number 1. Moving into a new house is supposed to be an exciting, fresh start, a chance for a family to create lasting memories. That's what my wife, Sarah, and I thought as we unpacked boxes in our quaint two-story home, nestled on the outskirts of a sleepy town. Our two kids, Emma and Jake, reveled in the idea of exploring their new rooms and the vast backyard. Little did we know, this seemingly ordinary house held secrets that would unravel our sense of normalcy. The first inkling of something amiss occurred during the first night. As we lay in our unfamiliar beds, a subtle hum seemed to permeate the walls. Sarah dismissed it as the sound of the house settling, but the hum persisted, occasionally escalating into an eerie resonance that left us uneasy. The soft glow of the moonlight cast unsettling shadows, and I found myself tossing and turning, unable to shake the feeling that we were not alone. Days turned into weeks, and the hum persisted, becoming a disconcerting background noise to our daily lives. I tried to find logical explanations, the old pipes perhaps, or the distant hum of a generator. Sarah and the kids grew accustomed to it, but I found myself increasingly fixated on its spectral quality, a constant reminder that this house held secrets just beneath the surface. One rainy afternoon, I decided to explore the attic, curious about the source of the mysterious hum. The attic, filled with dusty artifacts of forgotten times, seemed to amplify the strange noise. Among the cobweb-covered furniture, I stumbled upon an old journal. Its brittle pages chronicled the life of the previous owners, the Carters. The Carters had lived in the house for decades, their family history woven into the very fabric of its walls. The journal, penned by the patriarch, revealed tales of inexplicable occurrences, doors slamming shut on their own, whispers in empty rooms, and a persistent hum that haunted their every waking moment. The entries became increasingly frantic as the Carters grappled with a malevolence they couldn't comprehend. Despite the ominous revelations, I hesitated to share the journal with Sarah. I didn't want to burden her with tales of spectral hums and unsettling experiences. Perhaps, I thought, the stories were embellished, products of an overactive imagination fueled by the isolation of small-town living. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere within the house became increasingly charged. Emma and Jake, once excited about their new home, grew subdued. Shadows seemed to linger in the corners, and strange shapes flickered at the periphery of our vision. Sarah noticed the shift, attributing it to the stress of the move, but I couldn't shake the feeling that an unseen force was tightening its grip on our family. One evening, as I stood in the hallway, the hum escalated into a haunting melody. It reverberated through the walls, a dissonant symphony that seemed to emanate from the very foundation of the house. In that moment, I knew we needed to confront the unsettling reality we had tried so hard to ignore. Reluctantly, I shared the journal with Sarah. As she read the accounts of the Carters' struggles, her expression shifted from skepticism to concern. We decided to seek answers, to unravel the mysteries that clung to our new home. Through the town's archives and hushed conversations with locals, we discovered a series of tragic events that had befallen families residing in the house over the decades. Each family experienced a similar descent into supernatural chaos, marked by the haunting hum that echoed through time. Determined to break the cycle, we sought the guidance of a local historian with knowledge of paranormal phenomena. The historian, Dr. Thornton, listened to our accounts with a thoughtful gaze, confirming that the house held a residual energy, a malevolent force that fed on the fear and despair of those who dwelled within its walls. Dr. Thornton explained that the hum was a manifestation of the trapped spirits, their residual energy creating a perpetual loop of supernatural phenomena. To break the cycle, we needed to confront the malevolence head-on, a daunting task that filled us with trepidation. Armed with sage, ancient symbols, and Dr. Thornton's guidance, we gathered in the living room. The hum intensified, the walls seemingly pulsating with an otherworldly energy. As we chanted incantations, shadows danced on the periphery, and the temperature dropped to an unsettling chill. In the midst of our ritual, the air became charged with a spectral presence. Wisps of fog materialized, coalescing into the translucent figures of the previous inhabitants. the Carters, and those who came before them. Their eyes bore the weight of despair, yet there was a silent plea for release. The hum transformed into anguished whispers, recounting tales of tragic endings and unfulfilled lives. Dr. Thornton guided us through the ritual, urging the spirits to find solace in the light beyond. The atmosphere thickened with tension, a palpable struggle between the forces that bound the spirits and our desperate attempt to break free. As the ritual reached its climax, a blinding light enveloped the room. The hum, once a haunting melody, crescendoed into a guttural wail. The spirits, their forms dissipating in the ethereal mist, finally found release. The oppressive atmosphere that had plagued the house lifted, leaving behind an eerie silence. The next morning, the house stood in quiet stillness. The shadows had retreated, and the hum had ceased. It was as if the very essence of the malevolence had evaporated, leaving behind a sense of peace that had eluded the previous inhabitants. Story number 2. The decision to move into our new house felt like the final nail in the coffin of our dying marriage. Tension simmered beneath the surface as Lily and I navigated through the labyrinth of cardboard boxes, unpacking the remnants of a life that was unraveling. The house, a sprawling Victorian on the outskirts of a quiet town, seemed to absorb the heaviness that lingered between us. The creaking floorboards and the musty scent of time hung in the air as we settled into our new reality. The walls, adorned with faded wallpaper, whispered tales of previous occupants and the ghosts of relationships that had crumbled within these very rooms. Our attempt at a fresh start felt like an illusion, a desperate grasp at normalcy in the midst of chaos. Lily and I, caught in the throes of an impending divorce, moved through the motions of unpacking with a strained politeness. The house, with its ornate architecture and grandeur, offered a deceptive charm that masked the undercurrent of despair. We retreated into our separate corners of the house, seeking solace in the solitude that the expansive rooms provided. The first night was an uneasy dance between the unfamiliar and the hauntingly familiar. The wind whispered through the trees outside, and the shadows in the corners of our bedroom seemed to morph into spectral figures. As we lay in bed, the silence between us was deafening, punctuated only by the distant howl of a lone wolf. The days unfolded with a haunting predictability. Lily immersed herself in work, and I sought refuge in the corners of the house where the shadows clung like memories. Our interactions, reduced to formalities, held the weight of unspoken words and the ghosts of a love that had withered away. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the house in an ethereal glow, I found an old diary tucked away in a dusty drawer. The diary belonged to a woman named Eleanor, the previous owner of the house. Her words, penned with a graceful flourish, spoke of a love that had soured over time, leaving behind a residue of bitterness and regret. As I delved into Eleanor's entries, I couldn't help but draw parallels between her story and ours. The diary hinted at an unseen force that had taken residence in the house, a malevolence that fed on the discord within relationships. Skepticism gnawed at the edges of my consciousness, but the more I read, the more I felt an unsettling connection to Eleanor's words. Haunted by the specter of the house's past, I shared Eleanor's diary with Lily. The entries seemed to echo our own struggles, blurring the line between reality and the supernatural. Lily, initially dismissive, couldn't shake the unease that settled over her as she read about Eleanor's descent into madness and despair. As the weeks unfolded, the house seemed to come alive with a spectral energy. Whispered arguments echoed through the halls, shadows danced in the moonlit rooms, and the air crackled with an otherworldly tension. Lily and I, caught in the crossfire of the supernatural and the unraveling threads of our marriage, faced a growing sense of dread. One stormy night, as the rain lashed against the windows, we found ourselves drawn to the dilapidated attic. The air was thick with the scent of old memories and the foreboding weight of the past. Among forgotten relics and dusty furniture, we discovered an ancient Ouija board tucked away in a corner. Despite our skepticism, or perhaps fueled by a morbid curiosity, we decided to delve into the mysteries of the board. As our fingers hovered over the planchette, the atmosphere shifted. The air became charged with a spectral energy, and the planchette glided across the board with an otherworldly force. Letters spelled out messages that seemed to emanate from the shadows themselves. The entity identified itself as Eleanor, the tortured soul bound to the house by the same malevolence that had claimed her love. The planchette moved with an urgency, spelling out warnings of an impending darkness that sought to consume the living. Terrified, Lily and I sought the guidance of a local medium, a woman known for her ability to commune with spirits. Draped in a shawl and surrounded by the flickering light of candles, the medium channeled the energy within the house. Her eyes clouded over as she spoke in a voice that seemed to echo from the beyond. The medium confirmed our worst fears. The house harbored a malevolent force, a residue of pain and despair that had seeped into the very foundation. Eleanor, a victim of this spectral malevolence, pleaded for release from the torment that bound her to the house. Driven by a shared desperation, Lily and I decided to confront the entity head-on. Armed with sage, candles, and the medium's guidance, we entered the heart of the supernatural maelstrom. The air crackled with an energy that seemed to resist our intrusion, shadows twisting and contorting as we navigated through the ethereal chaos. In the attic, we stumbled upon an ancient mirror, its surface marred with age and sorrow. The medium urged us to break the spectral connection by shattering the mirror, the epicenter of the malevolence that held Eleanor's spirit in bondage. With a heavy heart, Lily swung a heavy object at the mirror. The glass shattered with a deafening crash, and an otherworldly wail reverberated through the attic. Shadows retreated, and a blinding light enveloped the space. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, leaving behind an eerie silence. As we stood in the aftermath of the supernatural ordeal, the house seemed to exhale a sigh of relief. The spectral malevolence, severed from its anchor, dissipated into the ether. The air, once thick with tension, now held a newfound tranquility. Story number 3. The decision to move into our new home felt like the start of a fresh chapter in our lives. My wife Rachel and I, along with our 2 lively dogs, Cooper and Bella, were eager to embrace the change. The quaint cottage on the outskirts of town seemed like the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. The first day unfolded with the chaos typical of a move. Boxes stacked in every room, furniture being maneuvered through doorways, and the dogs running in excited circles. As evening descended, tired but satisfied, we sat on the porch, sipping coffee and gazing at the stars. Little did we know that the charm of our new abode would soon give way to a chilling reality. The initial nights in the cottage held a comforting stillness. The dogs, usually quick to pick up on any change in environment, adapted seamlessly. However, as the days passed, subtle anomalies crept into our routine. Items misplaced, the occasional creaking of unseen floorboards, and a lingering sense of being watched became part of our daily life. One evening, as Rachel and I settled into the cozy living room, the dogs growled in unison at a seemingly empty corner. We dismissed it as their reaction to a passing animal outside, but an uneasy feeling lingered. The dogs, typically cheerful and carefree, seemed on edge, their ears perked, and eyes fixated on unseen entities. Curiosity led me to explore the history of the cottage. Local archives revealed little, but whispers among neighbors hinted at stories of unexplained occurrences in the old house. Skepticism lingered in my mind, but the subtle shifts in our surroundings began to erode my rational doubts. Late one night, an otherworldly sound echoed through the cottage. Whispers, too soft to decipher, wafted through the air. The dogs, usually boisterous, cowered beside us, their tails tucked nervously. Rachel dismissed it as the wind playing tricks, but the unsettling atmosphere hinted at something more sinister. In an attempt to dispel the growing unease, we invited friends over for a housewarming dinner. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, momentarily drowning out the whispers that lingered in the background. Yet, as the night wore on, our guests, too, felt the subtle disquiet that clung to the cottage like a shroud. Determined to uncover the source of the eerie occurrences, I delved into the cottage's past. An elderly neighbor, Mrs. Anderson, revealed tales of a tragedy that befell the previous owners. A young couple, much like us, had moved in years ago. Their lives took a tragic turn, ending in a mysterious fire that claimed the cottage and their lives. The revelation sent shivers down my spine. Rachel, initially skeptical, couldn't ignore the parallels between our situation and the tragic tale recounted by Mrs. Anderson. The dogs, sensing our unease, stuck close, their watchful eyes adding to the palpable tension. As the nights wore on, the supernatural disturbances escalated. Shadows danced in the corners and strange shapes flickered at the edge of our vision. Rachel, too, began to experience vivid nightmares, her sleep disrupted by unseen forces. The dogs, once a source of comfort, mirrored our anxiety, their vigilant behavior signaling an awareness of the otherworldly presence. Desperation led us to seek the guidance of a local paranormal investigator, Dr. Monroe. A tall, imposing figure with a no-nonsense demeanor, Dr. Monroe surveyed the cottage with a discerning gaze. His investigation revealed residual energy, a spectral imprint left behind by the tragedy that had unfolded within the cottage's walls. The dogs, usually hesitant around strangers, gravitated toward Dr. Monroe. His expertise in the supernatural provided a glimmer of hope, but the revelations that followed plunged us deeper into the chilling reality. The investigator spoke of a lingering spirit, trapped between worlds, its anguish tethered to the cottage by unresolved trauma. Dr. Monroe recommended a seance, a ritual to communicate with the restless spirit. Reluctantly, we agreed, the weight of the supernatural mystery pressing down on our shoulders. The seance, conducted in the dimly lit living room, brought forth strange phenomena, flickering lights, cold gusts of wind, and a voice, barely audible, recounting a tale of love and loss. The spirit identified itself as Amelia, the young woman from the tragic story. Her anguished whispers revealed the depth of her sorrow, a yearning for closure that echoed through the ages. The dogs, sensing the spectral presence, whined softly, their eyes reflecting the somber atmosphere. Driven by empathy, we sought to help Amelia find peace. Dr. Monroe guided us through a ritual designed to release her from the supernatural shackles. The air thickened with anticipation as we followed the prescribed steps, candles flickering in response to the unseen energy. In the midst of the ritual, a blinding light enveloped the room. The temperature dropped, and a soft hum filled the air. Amelia's spectral form materialized, her eyes conveying gratitude and relief. The dogs, no longer agitated, watched as the ethereal presence ascended, dissipating into the unknown.